All right, today we are diving headfirst into something that sounds like it was pulled straight from science fiction. But I promise you, it's happening in labs right now. We're going to talk about organoid intelligence.
So let me just kick this off with a really big question for you. When you think of a computer, you probably picture silicon, wires, and metal, right? But what if the next great leap in computing wasn't built but grown? What if we could use living human brain cells to solve problems that stump even our most powerful supercomputers?
Here's the roadmap for today. First up, we'll cover why we're even looking past silicon. Then, we'll get into what organoid intelligence actually is. After that, we'll see how scientists are literally training these mini-brains, peek into the future of biocomputing, and finally, tackle the huge ethical questions that all of this brings up.
Okay, so to kick things off, why even go down this path? I mean, our computers are incredible. They're faster than ever. But they have some serious limitations, especially when you compare them to that 3-pound universe sitting inside your skull.
So here's the essential trade-off. Your laptop or phone. It's an absolute beast at simple math, just a number-crunching champion. But it's also an energy hog, and it really struggles when the data gets messy or incomplete. The human brain, on the other hand? Well, it's actually slower at basic arithmetic, but it is a genius at dealing with complex, fuzzy information. And get this, it does it all using about as much power as a dim light bulb. The goal here isn't to replace silicon, not at all. It's about creating something new that gives us the best of both worlds.
And that brings us right to the heart of it all, organoid intelligence, or OI for short. And this is where biology and tech start to fuse together in a way that's, well, it's pretty mind-bending.
Okay, so let's get a really clear definition. Basically, scientists are taking human stem cells and growing them into these tiny, three-dimensional clusters of brain cells. We call them organoids or mini-brains. Then, and this is the key part, they hook these mini-brains up to computers, creating a genuine, living biocomputer.
So what makes this such a big deal? Well, for starters, it could be way faster and way more efficient than silicon because it's using the brain's own hardware. These 3D structures actually grow and form connections, kind of like a real developing brain. It's also incredibly energy efficient. But the real goal? It's to see if we can make these living brain cultures behave more like a computer, to create biological hardware that can solve problems we can't even touch right now.
This quote really just flips the whole script on what we're used to. You know, for decades, AI research has been all about making computers think more like us. Organoid intelligence comes at it from the complete opposite direction. It takes the actual biological stuff of a brain and tries to teach it how to compute like a machine.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds amazing, but how on earth do you teach a dish of cells to do anything? It seems impossible, right? Well, the secret lies in a really clever biofeedback loop.
It's basically a four-step dance. It all starts with something called a multi-electrode array. Just picture a smart petri dish that can both send signals to the cells and listen for their replies. So, step 1. Scientists send electrical signals into the organoid. That's the input. Step 2, the brain cells react, firing off their own electrical pattern. That's the output. Step 3, an AI analyzes that output, figuring out what the cells just did. And finally, step 4, based on that analysis, the AI adjusts the next signal it sends, providing feedback to guide the cells. It's basically a reward system, but with electricity.
But here's the million-dollar question. Does it actually work? And the answer is a mind-blowing yes. This is not just a theory. In a groundbreaking study back in 2022, scientists proved it. They taught a culture of brain cells to play a simple version of the video game Pong. I'm not kidding. The cells learned how to respond to move the paddle and hit the ball. They were learning, adapting, even showing short-term memory, all inside a dish. And that shows us that the basic building blocks of learning aren't just for complex animals. They can emerge from the biological hardware itself, if you give it the right kind of feedback.
Okay, so let that sink in for a second. If a brain in a dish can play Pong, what on earth does that mean for our future? Well, the potential applications are just staggering, especially for medicine and the future of computing itself.
Just imagine this. What if we could take a few of your cells, grow a mini model of your brain, and then test different drugs for something like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's on it instead of you, seeing exactly how your neurons react with zero risk? It could totally change how we develop new medicines. And beyond that, the sky's the limit. We could build entirely new types of computers that are powerful in ways we can't even imagine yet.
And just to give you a sense of the raw power we're talking about, experts estimate your brain's storage capacity is somewhere around 2,500 terabytes. AI is trying to replicate that with silicon and code. Organoid intelligence is trying to harness the real thing.
But as we get closer to this incredible new frontier, we have to stop and face some of the deepest, most challenging ethical questions our species has ever had to ask.
And this is the question that hangs over everything. As these little organoids get more and more complex, more capable, where do we draw the line? At what point does processing information become consciousness? What's the difference between a biological response and a genuine experience? We absolutely do not have the answers yet. And that's exactly why how we go about looking for them is so critical.
The scientific community knows this, and they're pushing for something called embedded ethics. It's a simple idea, really. Ethics can't be an afterthought you tack on at the end. It has to be baked into the research from day one. That means getting scientists, ethicists, and the public all in the same room, talking openly, and letting those conversations actively shape where the science goes.
So that's where we land. We're on the verge of a technology that could cure diseases and completely redefine what a computer is. But it also forces us to ask these huge questions about intelligence, memory, maybe even the nature of consciousness itself. As we take these first steps, the biggest question isn't just can we do this, but should we? And what's the first thing we should ask a brain in a dish? That's definitely something to think about.